Imagine carrying an invisible backpack every day, filled with stones you don't remember collecting. Each stone represents a moment from your childhood where you felt small and rejected. You grow up, you age, you achieve things, but the weight of that backpack never leaves you, making you constantly tired and tongue-tied when asked to speak up. That backpack has a name: trauma. Overcoming it isn't about forgetting the past or simply being strong to move on. It's about understanding how these experiences have been molding your life and your mind for years, especially during your most vulnerable years. This forced you to develop survival strategies that might be sabotaging your ability to trust, to connect, and to feel safe in the world today. Now, at 25, 35, or 45, these feelings are still huge. They flare up when someone takes too long to text you back, when you need to speak in public, or when someone shows genuine interest in you. Your adult brain knows everything's fine, but your nervous system still believes you're 5 years old and the world is a fundamentally dangerous place. But here's the good news. The same neuroplasticity that allowed trauma to become embedded in your life is the same power that can free you from it. Stick around because we're going to show you exactly how to do that. Can you accept a genuine compliment? Or, every time someone recognizes your work, does an internal voice whisper right in your ear, "If they only knew the real you, they wouldn't say that." This voice might seem like common insecurity, but it could very well have been born when you were 7, repeatedly hearing someone tell you that you never did anything right. Bessel van der Kolk, author of The Body Keeps the Score, says that childhood traumas aren't just bad memories filed away somewhere in our minds. They are much bigger than that. They physically alter the structure of our brain. They cause the amygdala, our alarm center, to become constantly hyperactive. They cause the hippocampus, responsible for memory and learning, to be suppressed. And the prefrontal cortex, our watchtower that helps us make rational decisions, becomes less accessible when we're under stress. This means that when you feel that tightness in your chest when confronted, when your mind goes blank during an important presentation, or when you sabotage relationships that could be good for you, it doesn't mean you're being overdramatic or that you lack character. What's happening is exactly what your brain was programmed to do over the years: protect a child that no longer exists, but still lives inside you. What's happening is exactly what your brain was programmed to do over the years: protect a child that no longer exists, but still lives inside you. I have to ask, have you ever stopped to think how many important life decisions were made by that scared child, and not by the conscious adult you've become? Does this resonate? Let us know in the comments. Have you ever felt awkward when hugged? Intellectually, you know hugs are gestures of affection, right? But every time someone approaches you for a hug, your body involuntarily tenses up, as if preparing for an impact. You might not understand why, but behind this behavior, your body holds memories of times when affectionate gestures were followed by something painful. Peter Levine, creator of Somatic Experiencing, observed something intriguing in wild animals. Even though they constantly face predators, they rarely develop chronic trauma. Why? Because they possess natural mechanisms for discharging traumatic energy. For example, when a gazelle escapes from a lion, it trembles, releasing all the accumulated tension and returning to a state of balance. We humans, however, have lost that capacity. Our culture teaches us to swallow our tears, to be strong, and to rationalize everything. But trauma is not just a mental issue, it's also physiological. It's stored in our nervous system, in the tension of our muscles, the rhythm of our breathing, and how our heart races in certain situations. That's why simply talking about trauma, although important, isn't always enough. Why? Because you can perfectly understand why you react a certain way, but still keep reacting the same way. Your body needs to learn through safe, gradual experiences that the danger is past. Have you ever noticed how your body reacts even before your mind processes a situation? For decades, it was believed that the adult brain was fixed and immutable. Therefore, if you had a difficult childhood, you'd have to live with the consequences forever. But modern neuroscience discovered the opposite. Our brain remains plastic throughout our lives, capable of forming new connections, rewriting old patterns, and literally reconfiguring itself. The same neuroplasticity that allowed traumatic experiences to mold your child brain is the same force that can remold it now. That's why every time you choose a different response, every time you question an automatic thought, every time you allow someone to get close, even when your first reaction is to pull away, you are creating new neural pathways. You are gradually exposing yourself to an experience with no evidence of danger. Just like a trail in the forest that, from being walked so often, becomes a wide, well-defined path, your traumatic patterns were established over the years through repetition. But abandoned trails close up, and new trails open when we walk on them consistently. To make it clearer, do this. Imagine your mind is like a garden where for years you allowed certain plants, thoughts of self-doubt, excessive fears, and self-sabotage patterns to grow freely. With an understanding of neuroplasticity, you discover you are the gardener, and as the gardener you can decide which plants to cultivate and which to remove. And there's more. Martin Teicher, a Harvard researcher, has shown that appropriate therapeutic interventions can literally alter the structure of the traumatized brain, causing hyperactive regions to calm down, suppressed areas to strengthen, and the brain that learned to live in constant alert to relearn how to experience safety. What does this mean for you? It means no matter how many years have passed, no matter how deep your wounds seem to be, change is not just possible. It is your brain's natural tendency when provided the right conditions. And here you see the importance of the psychotherapeutic process in dealing with trauma. If you can't find a way to manage this on your own, seek help. Why do we repeat patterns that harm us? Have you ever wondered why you're attracted to emotionally unavailable people? And the people who treat you well leave you bored, as if something is missing. But those who alternate between intense affection and distant coldness keep you completely hooked. If you're identifying with this, relax. I'll explain more about it. It's common for people with these patterns to judge themselves or even think they're masochistic or that there's something fundamentally wrong with them. But what's really happening? Well, your brain learned early on to associate love with unpredictability. If you grew up in a home where parental affection depended on their mood, where warmth and rejection alternated without warning, this might have left you confused and with trauma scars. Why? Because the child's brain, experiencing this, builds dangerous associations, like, true love is something you have to earn, but it can disappear at any moment. Gabor Mate, in the Realm of Hungry Ghosts, explains that addictions, whether to substances or dysfunctional relationship patterns, are attempts at emotional self-regulation, not moral failures. They are, in fact, desperate strategies of a brain that never learned to feel safe. And you live as if you're on a roller coaster between moments of connection and moments of rejection that activate the same neural circuits formed when you were little. And for a brain molded by trauma, this often gets confused with what is correct or true. You might ask yourself, is there a cure for this? I wouldn't use the word cure, but I would say that you can relearn how to handle all this by gradually understanding and learning to appreciate people who treat you well, to retrain your brain to recognize that emotional safety and true love can coexist at the same time. Have you ever realized you don't know how you feel most of the time? When someone asks how you are, you automatically answer, fine. Not because you're lying, but because you genuinely don't have access to your internal emotions. Decades of childhood trauma can create a deep disconnect between your conscious mind and your bodily sensations. Did you know that? Judith Herman, in her studies on trauma, identifies 3 fundamental stages for dealing with it: establishing safety, remembrance and mourning, and reconnection. But here's the thing. You can't reconnect with the world if you don't first reconnect with yourself. And that's where practices like mindfulness become revolutionary. Common belief treats mindfulness as a simple practice involving emptying the mind or becoming Zen, but it goes far beyond that. For trauma survivors, this practice can help develop the capacity to be present in one's own body without being overwhelmed by sensations. Even more, it helps you learn the difference between I am feeling anxiety and I am anxious, between I am experiencing fear and the world is dangerous. Do you see the difference? When you develop bodily self-awareness, you start noticing your patterns before they take over. You feel tension building in your shoulders before you lash out at someone, or you notice your breathing getting shallow before you panic, or you notice your heart racing when someone gets emotionally close. You can pause and choose a different response. Kolk further reinforces this. saying that practices like yoga, meditation, dance, and even martial arts can be more effective than therapy for certain types of trauma. Not because talking is useless, it's not, but because these practices work directly with the nervous system, gradually teaching it to relax, to tolerate intense sensations, and to experience the body as a safe place. Do you practice any of these? How do you feel? Share your experience in the comments and be sure to hit that like button. Imagine having grown up in a family where vulnerability was synonymous with weakness, and today, even as an adult, you still can't show fragility in the most difficult moments of your life because your body learned that showing emotions was dangerous. Your child brain learned specific lessons about the world. Don't trust anyone. You don't deserve love. The world is dangerous. These became filters through which you interpret every new experience. But the adult brain can learn different lessons through corrective experiences that contradict these old beliefs. And this is crucial in the process of resignification and understanding trauma. Richard Schwartz, who developed the Internal Family Systems IFS model, found that instead of trying to suppress the traumatized child within you, you can learn to be the protective adult that they always needed. Every time you choose to treat yourself with kindness instead of self-criticism, every time you set healthy boundaries, every time you allow yourself to feel emotions without judgment, you are offering a corrective experience to your inner child. You don't have to handle all this alone. Finally, I want you to understand that childhood trauma doesn't have to be the complete script for your entire life. It can simply become the first chapter of a much longer story about resilience, growth, and the extraordinary capacity to learn how to deal with all this. Remember, you don't have to walk this path alone. If you find it very difficult to face all these processes, get psychotherapy. Seek help so you can learn to view your journey of overcoming as an act of courage that doesn't just resonate within you, but in all the people who will be touched by the more integrated and conscious version of who you can become. Every time you seek to deal better with all this, you have the opportunity to break patterns that have been passed down for decades. If this video awakened something in you, if you recognized your own story in the words I shared, know that this recognition is already the first step toward dealing with your traumas. Give us a like, subscribe to the Lovecraftian Psychology channel, and share in the comments what you'll take away from this video. Take care, and until next time.